Late-night silence covered the old spaceport town like a heavy blanket. Most homes were dark, most streets empty, and only the humming wind moved between rusted landing pads where ships no longer came. Inside a small metal house on the edge of the abandoned runway lived a quiet engineer named Aaron. He spent his nights repairing broken drones and old communication units, working alone with only radio static for company. Humans had once dreamed of reaching the stars again, but after years of isolation, the town felt like the end of the world rather than the beginning of one. Aaron was used to peace, to silence, to loneliness, but not tonight. A sharp knock echoed across the metal door, trembling like the hand that made it. Aaron froze, tools still in his grip. No one ever came here, no one ever visited, especially at midnight. He walked to the door slowly, heart beating fast, and pulled it open just a little. At first, he thought someone had dropped a dying bird on his doorstep because the shape was small, curled, and desperate. Then he saw glowing lines on pale skin, long silver hair tangled with dust, and strange clothes torn by travel through harsh places. It was not a human woman. It was an alien. She was kneeling on the cold ground, arms wrapped around her stomach, breathing like each breath hurt. Her lips trembled as she tried to speak, but only a weak whisper came out. "Food, please." Before Aaron could react, her eyes rolled back and she fell forward, collapsing into his arms, unconscious. Her body felt too light, like she had not eaten in days, maybe weeks. He carried her inside quickly, placing her near the heater and covering her with a blanket, trying to understand what had just happened. There were no alien ports near Earth, no embassies, no official visits, no reason for a foreign traveler to end up outside his door. So how did she get here and why was she starving? Aaron opened his emergency ration packs and tore one open, the smell of cooked grains filling the air. The woman's eyes opened slowly, glowing faint blue under the dim light, full of fear and confusion. She stared at the food like she did not trust it, like she expected poison or betrayal. Aaron knelt beside her and spoke softly. "It's safe, you can eat, you're safe here." She reached out with shaking hands and took a small bite, chewing slowly as if her body had forgotten how to eat. Tears formed in her eyes as she swallowed, not from pain but relief. She whispered something in a soft alien language, but one word sounded close to human speech. "Thank you." As she ate, Aaron noticed the glowing patterns on her skin change shape, like energy moving through her veins. Not tattoos, not markings, something biological or engineered. She was no common traveler. Maybe a noble, a scientist, or someone created for a purpose far beyond human understanding. Minutes passed, and her breathing steadied, her face gaining color, her body relaxing for the first time. But safety did not last long. A distant rumble cut through the night sky, low and metallic, like engines burning atmosphere at high speed. Aaron stepped outside and looked up, seeing faint lights moving through the clouds, silent but coordinated, hunting. They did not look like human ships. Even from a distance, they moved with precision and purpose, scanning, searching, following a signal. The woman crawled to the door, fear overwhelming her face. She grabbed Aaron's sleeve with desperate strength. "Please, do not let them take me, humans are my only hope." Her voice was full of real terror, the kind that comes from someone who has already lost everything. Aaron looked into her frightened eyes and felt the weight of her words. He did not understand her past, her enemies, or why she came to Earth. But he understood one thing clearly. Someone wanted her back badly enough to cross stars to find her. And they were getting closer. The lights in the sky grew brighter, engines roaring just beyond the clouds, scanning beams sweeping across the land like a net closing around prey. Aaron pulled her inside and locked the door, turning off every light, sitting beside her in silence as heavy footsteps of ships echoed overhead. She shivered, hiding her face, whispering again, "Humans, our family, please save me." Aaron had never asked to protect anyone, never asked to become a part of something bigger than himself. But now, a starving stranger from the stars had collapsed at his door, begging for help, placing her trust in him and in humanity. Outside, the hunters circled closer, ready to land. Inside, Aaron made a silent choice that would change not only his life, but perhaps the future of Earth itself. He would not let them take her. He would stand with her, even if the whole galaxy came knocking. And somewhere in the sky, a ship locked onto their location, preparing to descend. Morning came slowly, painting the sky with soft orange light. Aaron barely slept, staying awake to make sure the alien woman did not collapse again. She rested quietly on a thin bed near the heater, wrapped in blankets like a fragile piece of lost history. When she finally opened her eyes, she looked calmer, but not safe, not truly. Her body still shook from exhaustion, but her mind seemed clearer, like she finally remembered who she was. She tried to sit up, but Aaron gently stopped her and passed her warm soup. "You need strength first," he said, voice soft. She nodded weakly, taking slow sips, letting the warmth spread through her tired body. After a long silence, she finally spoke, her voice quiet but steady enough to form words that sounded almost human. "My name is Leora," she said, each syllable careful. "I am from the Elindra constellation." Aaron blinked in surprise. That name belonged to one of the star clusters humanity scanned decades ago but never reached. He wanted to ask questions, but she continued before he could speak. "I was not supposed to come here," she said, looking away. "I escaped." Her voice trembled with memories she wished she could erase. She explained that her people lived under a strict empire where bloodlines decided value and power, where kindness was seen as weakness, where those without status were treated as shadows. Her markings were not symbols of beauty, they were genetic seals, proof she belonged to a noble line, a line that others wanted to control, imprison, or erase. "My family was hunted," she whispered. "I ran to survive." She looked down at her hands as if the glowing lines felt like chains, not gifts. "I had heard stories about humans," she continued, voice soft. "Stories that humans protect the lost, not for power but because they care." Aaron was silent for a moment, unsure how humans had earned such rumors across the stars. Humanity had been alone for centuries, rebuilding quietly, avoiding conflict, waiting for a time to rise again. Maybe their silence spoke louder than war ever could. Leora told him how she crash-landed on Earth in a stolen pod far from any city. She wandered through forests and ruins trying to find help, but she could not speak the language and she feared capture from both humans and her enemies. She survived on rainwater and wild plants until her body finally gave up, leading her to Aaron's door, guided only by instinct and hope. Aaron felt a weight in his chest as he listened. She was not just hungry, she was running from death. "Why did you trust humans?" he finally asked. She looked at him with tired eyes that carried whole galaxies of pain. "Because humans do not bow," she answered quietly. "Humans bend the world instead." Before Aaron could respond, her skin markings flickered again, pulsing like a distress beacon. This time she noticed too and panic filled her face. "They can track me through the seals," she said, voice shaking. "As long as they glow they can find me." Aaron stood up immediately, grabbing tools, wires and an old scanner. He was no doctor but he knew machines, he knew signals and he knew how to break them. "I can try to block it," he said, "but I need to understand how they work." Leora hesitated, fear mixing with trust, then slowly held out her arm, letting him see the glowing patterns more clearly. They pulsed like alien circuits under her skin, connected to something far away, like a silent chain pulling her home against her will. Aaron scanned the lines, watching strange data appear on his screen, symbols he had never seen before, mixed with frequencies far beyond human networks. "This is not natural," he said softly. "Someone designed this to track you." Leora nodded, eyes dark with old pain. "My people are born tagged," she whispered. "Some of us are not allowed to be free." Aaron clenched his jaw, anger rising. He never liked empires, never liked chains, and now one had come to his door, chasing someone who only wanted to live. Before he could disable anything, a sharp alarm on his scanner flashed red. A new signal was locking onto her position, stronger than before. The hunters had found the area again, closer, faster, more determined. Maybe last night was only the first sweep, and now they knew where to look. Leora stood, weak but determined, her voice shaking. "They will come for me again," she said. "They always do." Aaron stepped in front of her, eyes firm. "And we will be ready," he replied. "This time you are not alone." For the first time she looked at him not with fear, but with hope, the kind only found when someone finally chooses you. She placed her hand over her chest, whispering quietly, "I call humans family because you give without asking." Outside, engines roared in the distance again, the sound no longer distant but closing in. Shadows passed over the abandoned spaceport, slow and heavy like storm clouds preparing to strike. The hunters were coming, not just searching but landing. This time they would not knock at the door. This time they would break it down. And Aaron stood tall, ready to face them, ready to defend the stranger who collapsed on his doorstep, ready to show the galaxy what humans truly are. He grabbed his tools, his old rifle, and a communicator linked to hidden human forces. Earth was not weak anymore. And the galaxy was about to learn that the hard way. The hunt was not over, it was only beginning. The ground shook as the first alien ship broke through the clouds. It did not roar like human engines, it drifted silent like a hunter moving through the dark. Black armor plates wrapped around its hull, marked with symbols that looked more like scars than art. Aaron watched from his window, jaw tight, while Leora stood behind him with trembling hands pressed to her chest. "They found me again," she whispered, voice thin with fear. Aaron did not look away from the sky. "Then this time we send them back," he replied, calm but tense. He tapped a small device on his wrist, a communicator linked to an underground human defense network. It sent no sound, only a silent encrypted signal. Humans had learned from past wars. If the galaxy ever returned, Earth would not answer with words first, but with prepared force. Minutes later he received a coded reply. Not a warning, not hesitation, just 3 simple words flashing on the tiny blue screen. "Help incoming soon." Leora watched the message with wide eyes, not understanding fully. "You called your military," she said softly. "No," Aaron answered, "I called our people." The alien ship hovered lower, scanning the area with beams of red light that cut through the fog like lasers through cloth. It circled the abandoned spaceport, searching for movement, searching for her. A second ship appeared behind it, then a third, forming a silent formation like birds of prey. Leora stepped back, shaking her head. "They do not come to talk," she said, voice cracking. "They come to take me or kill me." Aaron turned to her, firm but gentle. "Then they will have to go through humans first." The words made her eyes soften, confused yet grateful. "Why would you defend me?" she asked. "I am not from your world." Aaron took a deep breath, thinking about what to say. "You came to our door hungry and alone," he said. "That is enough." Before she could answer, the first alien ship extended landing legs, digging into the cracked runway. Hatches opened with sharp mechanical hiss, and armored figures stepped out, tall metallic suits that looked like moving statues carved from onyx stone. Their helmets glowed, their movements coordinated, no hesitation, no emotion. These were not soldiers sent to negotiate, these were enforcers sent to retrieve property. "Ilindran hunters," Leora whispered, voice breaking, "they never stop." Aaron grabbed his old plasma rifle, a relic from a forgotten age of explorers. He had never used it on a living target, but tonight might change that. He opened a hidden panel in the floor, pulling out energy cells and worn armor plates. Leora watched, surprised by how quietly prepared humans were. "You expected war?" she asked. Aaron shook his head. "No, but we never forgot how to fight." The hunters moved through the spaceport, scanning buildings one by one. They were methodical, silent, and sure of their power. One of them raised a device that emitted a high-pitched pulse. Leora gasped and grabbed her arm as her markings began to glow against her will. "They are forcing a trace," she gasped. "They will find us faster." Aaron slammed a metal shield against the window to block the signal. His communicator beeped again, this time with coordinates and a single phrase. "Evac point behind hangar." He turned to Leora quickly. "We need to move," he said. "Now." They slipped out the back door, staying low as alien patrols marched past the house, weapons humming with contained power. Fog rolled across the runway, helping hide their movements. But the hunters were close, too close. Leora stumbled once, still weak from hunger and stress. Aaron caught her arm, steadying her, refusing to let her fall again. Then something changed in the air. A deep rumble rolled across the sky, not alien but human, heavy and bold. Leora looked up, eyes wide. "What is that sound?" she asked. Aaron almost smiled. "That," he said, "is backup." A massive shape descended through the mist, angular and silver, with bright blue thrusters that lit the clouds from within. The ship bore no alien grace, no sleek lines. It looked like a floating fortress built to survive a star-going supernova. Human military markings glowed along its sides, shields crackling to life. The alien hunters paused, looking up at the sudden presence above them. More lights appeared, small fighter craft forming a protective ring around Leora and Aaron, engines vibrating with raw controlled power. The hunters turned their weapons upward, not expecting resistance, much less equal force. Leora stared in disbelief, breath frozen in her throat. "You were isolated," she whispered. "How do you have ships like these?" Aaron kept his eyes forward. "Humans were quiet," he said, "not weak." The lead human ship opened a channel, a booming voice echoing across the runway through loudspeakers. "This is Earth Defense Fleet Omega Unit," the voice declared. "Stand down and leave our territory." The alien hunters did not move. They were trained to chase, to capture, not to retreat. Instead, one raised his weapon, pointing at Aaron and Leora. The moment froze, just long enough to feel like the universe held its breath. Then lasers cut through the night. The battle began. Aaron shielded Leora behind a broken cargo crate as explosions lit the sky. The hunters moved fast, but humans moved faster. For the first time, Leora saw a species fight not for conquest or pride, but to protect someone who was not even their own. She pressed her hand to her heart, eyes filled with tears. Maybe the rumors were true. Maybe humans really were different. Maybe this strange lonely planet was not just a place to hide, but a home. And as the battlefield burned around them, she whispered one truth to herself. I will not run anymore. Because humans were fighting for her. Now she would fight for them. And the galaxy would soon learn what it meant to threaten Earth. The battlefield shook with light and fire. Human fighters streaked across the sky like burning arrows, leaving blue trails behind them. Alien hunters moved with cold precision, their armor absorbing blasts that would melt steel. But for the first time they were not the only ones with power. Humans matched them move for move, strike for strike, refusing to fall or retreat. Aaron kept Leora behind cover, but his eyes remained sharp, scanning for threats. He held his plasma rifle steady, the old weapon humming to life in his hands. Leora watched him, her heart torn between fear and gratitude. She had never seen a human fight before, never seen a species so fierce yet so protective. It was not war for conquest, it was war for family. One alien hunter marched toward them through smoke, raising a heavy spear-like weapon glowing with charged energy. Aaron fired 3 quick shots, blue sparks exploding across the alien's chest. The hunter stumbled but did not fall, its armor absorbing most of the damage. It lifted its weapon again, aiming straight at Leora. She froze, breath caught in her throat. But a human fighter swooped down from above, engines screaming, firing a blast that knocked the hunter back into a metal wall, crushing its armor. The pilot spoke through the comms, voice sharp and focused. Target neutralized, continue moving. Aaron nodded in silent thanks even though the pilot could not hear him. He grabbed Leora's hand and pulled her toward a safer area behind a rusted fuel tower. She followed, but her steps grew slower, her face pale, markings flickering weakly. Aaron turned toward her, worry rising. What's happening to you? He asked. Leora touched her glowing skin with shaking fingers. The SEALs are reacting to combat signals, she whispered. They want to connect to the hunters to call them. Her voice trembled, filled with dread. If they force full activation they can control me again. Aaron clenched his jaw, anger burning hotter than fear. You are not theirs, he said firmly. Not anymore. Before Leora could respond, a deep metallic voice echoed across the battlefield, amplified through alien speakers. Ilindran subject detected. It announced, cold and emotionless, surrender and be spared. Leora stepped backward, shaking her head violently. No, she whispered, I can't go back. Her entire body shivered like a trapped animal, terror overcoming her strength. Aaron placed a steady hand on her shoulder, grounding her. You don't have to, he said, his voice soft but unbreakable. The alien flagship descended through the clouds then, larger than every other vessel combined. Its arrival drained the light from the sky, casting long shadows across the battlefield. The air vibrated under its engines, each thrum heavy with deadly power. Even human ships paused, their pilots whispering in shock. Leora stared at the massive vessel, her voice a broken whisper. That ship destroyed whole cities, they came for me. Aaron looked up at the monstrous silhouette, feeling the weight of a choice tightening around them. Humans could retreat and survive, or they could risk everything to protect her. But Aaron already knew the answer. Before he could speak, Leora stepped away from him, moving into open ground, arms raised. Aaron's eyes widened in disbelief. What are you doing? He shouted. Her voice rose above the wind, strong despite her fears. If I surrender they will stop attacking, she cried. Humans will live. She looked at Aaron with trembling eyes. You saved me once, now I save you. Aaron ran to her, grabbing her shoulders, refusing to let her move further. No, he said, breath sharp with rage. We don't survive by sacrificing those who trust us. Tears filled her eyes, but Aaron continued, voice firm like metal. You came to us starving and alone, that makes you one of us. He pointed to the sky where human ships still fought without fear. We protect family, we don't trade them. His words struck her deeper than any weapon could. For a moment she simply stared, stunned by the idea that she mattered enough to fight for, that she deserved life, not capture. Thunder shook the air as the alien flagship charged a massive weapon beneath its hull. A growing sphere of dark red energy appeared, crackling like a miniature star. Human scanners lit up with warnings, alarms echoing through comms. A pilot shouted over the channel, voice panicked. They're charging a planet breaker. Impact could level the entire region. Leora gasped, stepping back in horror. They will kill thousands just to take me. Aaron's grip tightened on his rifle, anger burning like fire in his chest. Then we stop them, he said, voice hard and fearless. Leora looked at him, her expression shifting from fear to resolve. She nodded once, slow and firm. No more running, she said, not from them, not from my own blood. She placed both hands on her glowing seals, closing her eyes. Energy surged through her veins, brighter than before, not in fear but in rebellion. She would use her heritage not as a chain but as a weapon. Above them, the alien flagship continued charging its devastating beam. Human ships formed a protective line around the ground forces, engines roaring, shields raised, ready for the blow. The world seemed to hold its breath once more. Leora opened her eyes, now burning with furious blue light. Aaron stood beside her, rifle ready, refusing to step back. Together they faced the sky, united by choice, not blood. Because family was not born. Family was chosen. And they chose each other. The red sphere of energy beneath the alien flagship grew brighter, crackling like a star ready to burst. Human ships formed a defensive wall, shields sparking as they absorbed smaller blasts from enemy vessels. No one retreated, not even when warnings screamed across every comm channel. Human pilots held their positions, protecting the land beneath them, protecting Aaron and Leora, protecting a stranger who was no longer a stranger. On the ground, Leora stood with her eyes closed and hands pressed to the glowing markings on her skin. Aaron stayed beside her, keeping watch, ready to fight off anyone who tried to reach her. The seals that once controlled her now pulsed like a beating heart of light, brighter and brighter. She drew energy not from fear, but from defiance, from choice, from the life she wanted to claim. She whispered to herself, voice steady. These seals were made to bind me, now they will bind them. The energy in her markings surged upward, forming a column of blue light that shot into the sky, connecting her to the flagship. The vessel trembled as systems flickered, symbols on its hull distorting like corrupted code. Inside that ship, commanders shouted orders, trying to override the link she created. But she did not send obedience, she sent chaos. Her voice echoed across the connection, stronger than chains. I am not yours. Aaron watched the light grow stronger, his heart pounding. He had no idea how much power flowed through her body, but he knew it was dangerous. He stepped closer, placing a hand on her arm, grounding her just as she had grounded herself to earth. You're not alone, he whispered. His voice helped her focus, not drown in the power rushing through her veins. The flagship's weapon stuttered, the red sphere collapsing in on itself before bursting into harmless sparks that rained across the battlefield. Human ships cheered across comms, pilots shouting in relief as alarms went silent. The hunters looked up in shock, their precision replaced by confusion for the first time. Their greatest weapon, their feared strike, had failed because one runaway noble refused to bow anymore. But the ship did not leave. Instead, new lights flared along its sides, preparing another attack, smaller but still deadly. Leora's energy flickered, her body weakening from the effort. She kneeled, breathing hard. Aaron caught her before she fell, supporting her weight with both arms. You did it, he said. You stopped the strike. She shook her head weakly. They will try again, she whispered. They won't stop while I live. Aaron looked up at the looming vessel, anger rising like fire in his chest. Then he looked at the human fleet above, still holding formation, engines ready, guns charged, waiting for a command. Humans did not need permission, they needed a reason. And now they had one. A human commander's voice echoed across the sky. All units, target flagship. The tone was cold, steady, final. We protect our own. Dozens of cannons charged, blue lines of light forming across hulls. Human technology may have been quiet for years, but it had not slept. It had evolved in silence, waiting for purpose. And that purpose had finally arrived. Leora looked up, eyes filled with disbelief. They fight for me, she whispered. Why? Aaron smiled softly, supporting her as explosions rippled across the sky. Because you asked for help, he said, and humans answer. The fleet fired as one, a storm of blue light tearing across the clouds. The alien flagship's shields cracked, shattered, and finally collapsed under the combined strike. A final explosion filled the sky with light brighter than sunrise. When the flames faded, only drifting debris remained, burning like falling stars. The remaining hunters on the ground looked up, stunned. Without command, without purpose, without their leader, they hesitated. Human ground troops surrounded them, weapons raised, voices firm. Stand down and leave, they warned. One by one, the hunters retreated to their smaller ships, leaving Earth behind, defeated not by cruelty but by unity. Silence fell across the ruined runway, broken only by distant engines fading into space. Aaron helped Leora stand, though her legs trembled with exhaustion. "You're safe," he said softly. She looked at him with tired eyes full of emotion. "No," she whispered, voice trembling with warmth, "I am home." He wrapped a blanket around her shoulders as med teams approached to help. Human soldiers bowed their heads to her, not as a princess, not as a prize, but as someone they protected because she needed protection. Leora touched her chest, feeling the faint heartbeat of her seals, now quiet and dim, no longer chains, just reminders of where she came from. She spoke quietly, words carrying across the moment like a promise. "I came to Earth hungry," she said, "but I found something greater than food." She looked at Aaron, then at the humans around them. "I found a family." The sun rose over the broken spaceport, turning smoke into golden clouds. A new day began, not just for her but for humanity. The galaxy had finally noticed Earth, and Earth had answered not with fear, but with strength. This was not the end. It was the beginning of a new chapter for both humans and the girl who arrived starving on their doorstep. And the next time the stars came calling, humanity would be ready,